I would just say that strength has a different meaning for everybody. So being strong doesn't mean that you have a lot of muscle or you are able to pick up, 1,000 pounds off the floor. Being strong could be you just getting to the gym, or you being able to pick up your kid with no pain from the ground for the first time. There's so many different avenues of it, and just find what works for you, find what makes you feel good, and live in that light.
Podcasting from somewhere with protein shakes and no yearly membership fee. This is the HeroFit Podcast, the show that talks about the ins and outs of fitness, nutrition, and anything else that might get you feeling like a hero. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your hosts, Nick Stutzman and Dan Weber.
This is the HeroFit Podcast. I am Nick Stutzman here with my co-host with the most, Dan Weber. Today we are joined by Katie Dundas. She is a personal trainer at Gilmore Barbell and Fitness, Strongman competitor, dance teacher, and is currently in school for massage therapy, also from Buffalo, New York. Katie has competed in bodybuilding, then transitioned to 14 sanctioned strongman events, won national, 3 world championships, placing as high as second, and is currently studying more to reach pro status. Today we're going to talk about her background, the strongman training, competitions, philosophies, and discuss our own little strongman assessment session that we just had. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So let's start just from the beginning. Start about what got you into fitness.
All right, so I grew up as a dancer my whole life since I was 4 years old, right into college. I did a couple of years, Slippery Rock University at Buffalo. And then I kind of was like, I need to do something else. Got involved into the gym, went there, tried to keep, kept myself active and going. And after University at Buffalo, I decided that I wanted to go into personal training. Got involved in bodybuilding and did a couple natural bodybuilding shows, and then from there went right into strongman.
So when you started out in bodybuilding, what possessed you to kind of even think about that?
I think I just really needed some kind of goal. I needed something to chase, and bodybuilding was my first choice. I didn't really know anything about powerlifting or strongman yet, so I met a couple different people in the industry and found a coach, and then decided to go from there.
Having that dancer body kind of had that foundation in a sense. So what were some of the things for bodybuilding that you kind of really had to work on in the beginning?
Probably just the intensity of the training. The diet was the hardest part for me. The low calorie diet with the high intensity training, 2-a-day cardio. I know there's a lot of other ways that people reach those goals now, but that's what I did, and it was a lot of work for me to be going to school, working, and getting through that preparation.
For me, I think too, the diet's probably the biggest thing that I would probably have to overcome as well, because I just love pizza too much and all the stuff. So I'm a slave to that, and that's one of my biggest struggles. But I feel like
we all struggle with diet. Mine's been traditionally under eating is a problem for me.
It's never a problem for me.
I would be fine during the cutting phase of bodybuilding. It's the bulking that the coaches would be mad at me. Gotta get those calories up. I'm never hungry.
Were there any struggles you had in the beginning with the bodybuilding aspect?
In the beginning, not so much. I would say as I progressed into it, I got kind of addicted to that feeling of how I looked and what I was going to look like and what I was going to look like on stage. And it just became like an unhealthy obsession of looking a certain way to get on stage. And I just didn't like that feeling anymore.
Real talk.
Real talk.
That's probably a common thing in that industry.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for women, I think, too. Because, for the men, everyone thinks Arnold or, Ferrigno, all those guys, and thinks that they have to be really bulky, where, I know you've kind of touched on this, for women it's acceptable, and to not get away from that stigma and enjoy what your body looks like. But at the same time, you have to cultivate and have to, really stick with it. Do you consider yourself, this is something that's been kind of consistent, a type A personality?
100%. Absolutely.
We've had a couple people who are powerlifters and stuff like that who find themselves to be very type A. Mm-hmm. And that's to be something that I don't know, I guess I'm not type A, I don't feel like. So it's tough for me to maybe think that I could even get into this type of thing.
Nick keeps looking at me. I don't believe in type A versus type B, so I have no comment on this. But I've always thought that, you see similar types of personalities that end up in different types of fitness, or even just pursuing a goal, and then the way that they pursue their goal is highly tied to psychological process. I'm more of them into the Myers-Briggs system.
Love Myers. You start, especially for women, they start working out because they want to look a certain way, and they start working out usually because they want to be smaller. They want to take up less space, and they don't want to they don't want to put on muscle. They just want to tone their bodies and define certain things in their bodies and lose weight. And that's where I was at. I just wanted to, even with dance, I had to have a certain kind of body type.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so did dance help plant that mind?
That seed?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I definitely, felt like I had to be a certain way to perform on stage and to get any kind of professional job in the dance world. Usually, they're looking for a certain thing, and, that carried over into bodybuilding.
And so now it's more about embracing who you are,
who I am, whatever my body weight is, it is, and being okay with putting on muscle and size in ways that I might not have been before.
So one of the things that I guess too is all right. So you're going from bodybuilding to strongman, and being that type of personality. What kind of changes were right off the bat, or something that emerged?
Definitely a mindset change. I had to kind of force myself to eat more, to take some rest days, to change up my training, and to train for strength over just training to look a certain way. And
with that too, I guess one of the things that it's almost obviously, well, let's get into it, the kind of the minutia of it, the different types of exercises. What were, you went from focusing on one type of muscle group, and now you're doing like a whole more compound movements, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, in bodybuilding, I still was squatting and deadlifting and pressing, just in different
especially
ways.
As a natural. Right.
Yep. So I had to just start increasing weights and doing things that I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to deadlift 300 pounds at this contest in a couple weeks. But you just get out of that mindset and you work towards it, and then you get there.
Did your technique change at all?
Technique yes, because I had to learn new techniques. Like I had to introduce new techniques to my body that I never had done before, such as moving events, going fast, loading things to a height. That's never something that I thought I would be doing. So I never trained that way.
Did you have a coach, like someone that was like teaching you this entire time?
Yeah, so when I competed in bodybuilding, Mike Gill, he owned a Strongman gym, and he contacted me. He saw me on stage, and he was like, you should come check out my gym. You should come train some clients at my gym. And then he kind of just guided me through the whole process. Him and his friend, Tony Calise, taught me a lot.
And you said they have a Strongman gym?
He did, yeah. He sold it, actually. So that's why I kind of do my own thing now. But I have a coach from out of town currently.
Nice.
But Mike Gill did teach me a lot of what I know now.
He was at the bodybuilding show poaching people?
Yeah, I think so.
Something you talked about, we'll touch on our kind of going through some of the things that we went through today, but I think you touched on it, was like no competition's the same. And so how does, like for me, I'd say I'm completely ignorant to the whole strongman event competition, all this stuff. How do you train for it if you're not sure what's going to happen, or do they tell you what the events are prior, or give you like some kind of notice?
Yeah, you pretty much know at least 12 weeks in advance, which is a full strongman prep. So probably even longer than that, we know exactly what weights are going to be at the competition and what the events are. Sometimes on game days, some little things get changed and you might lift something different than what you've been training, but that's also part of Strongman. I've gone to an event where the whole event was changed. The technicalities of the event were changed, but that's kind of the fun part of it. You don't really know what to expect.
And typical to other events, broken up by weight class, and do you see a lot of competitors in your weight class?
I would say at the local level, there's about, can range from like 5 to 10 competitors in a weight class. It goes lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight for both men and women. And there's also a novice class. So people that have never competed before, there's a lightweight and a heavyweight novice class.
This is good information. So I always imagined Strongman was just, that's only for like giant dudes. So there's no way I'll ever even
That's what I thought. Yeah. But there's a lightweight women's 140 class that I've always competed in.
So we're converting people live on air right now.
Yeah.
14 sanctioned events. Tell us about your first one.
My first one, I was definitely very, very nervous for. I can still remember how I was feeling now. And I kind of just went into it with an open mindset. I'm just going to do the best I can, put this training to good use, and see what happens. During a contest, they post the score sheets, so you can actually go up and see where you're placing throughout the day. But I decided not to do that. I just decided to be there to have fun, and I didn't even know what place I came in. And then the end, I got called for second. I was really surprised.
Wow. And how did that feel? Like, how you obviously were just like, I'm just here for fun, but how did it feel to take up second?
It felt good. I've always been a pretty competitive person, but I tried to go into this not trying to actually get on podium, but obviously I wanted to do well. Top 3, I think, were qualified for nationals. And then from there, I was like, well, I guess I'm actually pretty good at this, and I want to see where I can go.
So you weren't sure, kind of like me today, just throwing weights around, but you're not sure if you're something that, you were really going to be good at. You just felt like this was something I want to try and see how it works out.
Yeah, the women I trained with at Gills and my coach, they were all just, very encouraging, and they told me to just try it out and see what happens, and I liked it, so I stuck with it.
It kind of makes sense to me that you would do really well going into it without like trying to chase a certain number and just enjoying the process of it. Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
And that's what a lot of my novice competitors, I try to keep them away from, worrying about how they're going to place, or, how many reps they're going to get in this versus training, because you just really never know what's going to happen on game day. You don't know if the person that you see getting first place all the time, if they trip and fall, then they lose points and you could potentially beat them. So anything can really happen on the day of competition.
Just love the process.
Completely enjoy the process. Mm-hmm.
And something we talked about earlier too was the fact that no competition you've done over a baker's dozen here, but it's never been the same, and so that kind of keeps it fresh for you each time.
Absolutely, yeah. Even at a world's level, the events are always changing. They're usually pretty good about being creative with their event choices. So I have done events, similar events over the past 3 years, but it's never been the exact same weight or reps or anything like that.
And so national worlds, how did you end up shaking out there? Did you reach your goals with that? I'm not sure if I guess you're placing on those.
Mm-hmm. So I haven't gone to nationals in 2 years. I went to nationals 2 years ago, which qualified me for the Arnold. If you get into a certain percentage, you can go compete at the Arnold. So that's what I did 2 years ago. Then this past year, I competed at a Plat Plus, which just means you have to get first place in order to go to the Arnold. So I took first place at that competition in last July, and then went to the Arnold again.
Nice. And how did you place at the Arnold?
The Arnold, both times, I think 2 years ago I got 6th place, and this year I took 7th.
Tough competition, obviously.
For sure, best in the world you're competing against. There's people from all different countries all over the U.S. and that's that's why I love it, because it's such a good environment. It's so much fun, and it's cool to be so close, up against the competition is tight. So, you gotta have a perfect day or else.
There's some legends out there too, so
yeah.
That's kind of cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we were talking about maybe bringing the podcast to the Arnold next year or something like that. Just kind of maybe see if we could sit down with some of the athletes, but that would be something like that whole environment would be really conducive, obviously, not only from a competitor standpoint, but for the people that are cheering you on and stuff like that. That seems like it would be really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a really, really good environment and just a lot of fun in general.
How is the community? Is everybody cheering for everybody the way it is at I hear that powerlifting events, or is it more competitive, cutthroat?
So that's the two things I love about Strongman are the versatility with the events and the training and the community. Even this morning with my group of girls that I train, there's 6 of them, and they don't care if, one person can lift more than them, or if someone else can go faster than them. You're cheering for each other. And it's the same thing at a competition. The person that you're beating might be screaming at you to lift the weight up. So that's why it's really awesome. And I've developed a lot of good relationships and friendships all over the U.S. because of it.
What are some of your favorite events that you've had for over the years?
Specific events or actual contests?
Well, both. We can say both.
So far, my favorite contest has been in Raleigh this past December. It was a world's competition, and it was just so much fun. It was not sanctioned, but it's a newer sanction that's coming about, and it was just really good competition, and all the events were a lot of fun, and Raleigh was fun. North Carolina is a good time, so that's why I also like to. It's a good excuse to travel too. You get to go all over the place.
And then specific events.
My favorite event is the stone load for sure, and circus dumbbell.
So for me, what is the stone load exactly?
The stone load is the
Did you do
Atlas.
that?
You did stone to shoulder today,
Okay.
So kind of. Stone load is when you load the concrete or stone of steel to a platform or over the bar.
And then you do that that's when somebody pushes the stone back to you and you just keep doing it.
Yeah, or you just go up to the platform and you'll have different heights and you'll load it up high to low and it will go light to heavy stones. And then the circus dumbbell is also what you did today with the one arm press.
So we'll have some videos of that people can look at.
Watching us struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so kind of talking.
I'm going to interrupt a little.
Go ahead.
Are they doing this event in Raleigh again?
Yeah, it's a brand new event that they started 2 years ago, and I'm pretty sure he'll have it every year.
That might be something worth checking out as well. I've got family down there. I like that area, so good excuse to travel, you said.
It's in Dorton Arena. It's a big arena. It's a lot of fun.
And then so let's kind of we'll go right into it, talking about what we did today. Did you have an idea of what you were going to put us through?
Honestly, no. I wanted to get an opinion from you guys to see what you were thinking. I like to get feedback with what people think strongman is, because a lot of people, when I say that I compete in strongman, they're like, oh yeah, so you do squat, bench, and deadlift, and you're like a power lifter, right? So I wanted to just see what you guys have seen on TV or heard of, and kind of get some feedback first. So I knew I wanted you to move and carry something, because that's such a big part of strongman, and then do some kind of overhead or loading or something like that.
Okay. And it's funny.
I went in completely blank canvas. Yeah. I didn't even want to have preconceived notions. So.
Yeah, I kind of felt
what I did have is just from watching ESPN strongman competitions, and those big dudes that are throwing 500-pound logs in the air or whatever, the best of the best.
Yeah. The hammer throws, whatever. Yeah, just craziness. I still think it's crazy, but me too. I would say that was the only thing I had prior. I've seen obviously some of your posts and some of the other people that you train with and compete with, so I've seen a little bit of that. But other than that, I mean, for me, I wouldn't even know where to begin training or what to really think about as far as
I did kind of always wonder if you do strongman events to train for strongman, or if you're doing more traditional deadlift, squats, and bench, and just mix that stuff in. But it seems like you're actually spending a lot of time training the actual the competitions, events, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it just depends. If I'm training for a competition, I'll usually start like 6 to 8 weeks out from the event. Otherwise, I'm really just training a lot of main movements: squat, deadlift, pressing. Anaerobic, aerobic systems. There's a lot that goes into one contest, so you have to make sure you're completely well-rounded. You can't just, I used to really, really focus on like 2 events. I would be like, I got to get my press up, I got to get my deadlift up, but then I wouldn't be fast enough, or I wouldn't load enough reps in a minute at a contest. So you have to work on all of the qualities, or else you won't, because it's a point system, so you won't have enough points to place.
I was surprised by when we first started out, and you're like having us do farmers carries, and I'm just walking them. You're like, no, you got to run. So
You got to move.
You actually do sprints as part of your training or something.
I do.
Like that, or?
Yep, I actually just started an off-season program, and I have sprints once or twice a week. And then I'll do like sprints with a sandbag, all kinds of different stuff.
For training like this, how many hours and days are you in the gym?
4 to 5 days, 1 to 1.5 hours, depending on my schedule and what I have time for. But
is that typical?
Yeah, I would say so. Sometimes an event day, if you're running a lot of events at once, as you could see, it takes a lot of setup and breakdown. So, and if you're training with a group, it might take up to like 2 to 3 hours.
Because everyone's doing it.
Everyone's going, but yeah, for the most part, I just do my own thing, or I train with a small group, and it'll be around an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Do you train yourself when you're training others, or do you kind of
No.
you just want to focus on them?
Yeah, when I coach, I'm Katie coach and Katie the athlete are 2 different people, so I don't like to mix them. And I train my athletes a certain way, and then I train myself a certain way.
Do you train yourself? Do you already have a coach?
I have a coach. His name's Andy. He runs the Performance Vibe, and it's an online coaching system, and we have a really, really awesome relationship. And he's taught me a lot about the sport and about everything involved in it.
On an actual competition, I'm curious, how much rest time is there between events?
It depends on how many people are at the competition. So, like, at that Worlds competition that I just did in Raleigh, you could be waiting up to like 2 hours in between your event. But at a local competition, you might have like half an hour, maybe an hour.
Still, it seems
recover.
like a significant amount of time.
Yeah, you definitely need time in between. Some more than others, Some of the competitions are spread out over like 2 to 3 days, but for the most part, it's all in one day, and you have around an hour to recover in between.
Yeah, it reminds me of some of the things I've done in my life, athletic-wise, where we had a certain amount of time, but sometimes you might go longer depending on whatever might happen, and you got to kind of prepare yourself, warm up, whatever the case may be. So let's talk about today. So we started out. You had us doing some rowing, get our blood flowing, I guess.
Some movement prep.
Some movement prep. I was not prepared for that. I was.
Wake you guys up somehow.
He was not movement prep.
I was not prepared for that.
I was fresh out of bed.
I was gassed. I was like, oh man, not what I was thinking about today.
I did fasted training today.
Yeah.
I wanted to really challenge myself.
I ate last night, so I'm not worried about that. But I hadn't eaten. I'd only really gone out with water. But yeah, I was just like, my endurance isn't there.
I like the rowing. Thought it was a good little warm up. I haven't done that.
Oh, yeah, it was a solid warm up. Yeah. But I was like, this is what this is what we're working with. It's gonna be rough.
I like that it was intervals. I'd much prefer to do that kind of training than just steady state.
Yeah, before any kind of event training or main movement training, I always do some kind of movement prep with my athletes. So whether it be hop on the rower, do some, depending on the movement for that day, I'll always, get your body well prepared.
Yeah, much appreciated for that. Thank you. And then we got down to some farmer carries. How would you explain the apparatus for those who, obviously you have some visuals, but Is that you said that that's not always a consistent apparatus that you use for the farmer's carry?
Right. So ours was basically just like a barbell with a handle on the top, and you can put the plates on the front and the back. You can also have top-loaded farmers where you'd put the weight on the top of the handles.
And as Nick alluded to, we'll have all the video content on the website. Probably you'll see some of it on social media. So if people are interested in actually seeing it after they listen to the podcast,
how we fared.
You guys are gonna go study it and then get ready for your first competition.
Also, I'm gonna manipulate the video so it looks like I'm going faster.
You guys were competing the whole time today.
Yeah. Who won?
I think maybe it was a tie.
Okay. We'll take that.
The stone and then the farmers for you guys.
Yeah. I think I ended up winning that too.
Are we in the same weight class?
No, we're not. We're not even. It's not even close, actually. It's not. It's true. All right, so we did some farmers carries, and then we did the beanbag, right? Beanbag. I call it beanbag.
Yeah, the sandbag.
Sandbag.
Yes.
It felt like a beanbag to me.
Beanbag.
Yeah.
Kick it around a little.
Yeah.
This little sack that actually weighed 100 pounds. I was really rattled by it.
But I didn't tell you guys what the stuff weighed beforehand. So I think that was good because you kind of.
I thought it was going to be like 50 pounds just because of the size of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is way too heavy.
Well, with the farmers carry, you're just like,
I
oh,
must not be in good shape.
yeah, you're like, oh, we'll just add another 20 pounds or something. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I think Dan and I were both like, yeah, this is not a big deal. But the sandbag, when you're lifting it up, it doesn't seem as assuming. But then, when you're running with it, it's definitely like, oh, I got another 100 pounds. Not now knowing what the weight was. I'm like, oh, I got another 100 pounds with me.
Well, that's interesting. Because for me, it was like, once I was running with it, I felt good. But it was like getting it up was the problem. Yeah.
And just the cues. We were just talking, that was something we had discussed, was just getting those cues with a lighter weight like that, and just kind of making sure we're doing the hip hinges and the squat part of it, and then cradling and gathering it up into your arms.
There's a lot to remember.
Yes, and not to just do what you would, I guess, inherently
like if you were to
do.
go pick up a bag outside of if you're
bag of sand.
Yeah. It's a lot different.
As
you
one
want to make
does.
sure you're doing things differently, the correct way.
To prevent injury and
Correct.
once you have a heavier weight, to be able to be more likely to succeed.
Absolutely. And to move faster. If you're doing something the wrong way, it's going to take you longer to do it normally.
So I think that's why I was cheating, because I thought it would actually speed the process up on the sandbag.
And I was trying to make sure that I was getting that deep squat, like as I pulled it into my lap. And I was like, oh, okay, let's, see if this is how it was, because I would worry that if it was a heavier weight, that transition, it is a lot like pushing with your hips. I think we were talking about that with the stone, and pushing with your hips to get it up.
You want to use your legs and your hips, your glutes, get that triple extension and stand it up.
I just wanted to cradle everything in my biceps.
You're going to be sore tomorrow.
That's fine. He earned it. So yeah, we did farmer carry and the sandbag medley, which was just, you were saying, hold it, the farmer's carry, hold them close to your thighs, and then just, try to run. That was definitely interesting. It's fun. I mean, like that, to me, just like that stuff. And
I had a good time. I thought it was great.
Yeah, as far as like I felt like we were competing and still in that sense, but just try not to make fools of ourselves either. At least look like we've seen and picked up stuff before without issue. But is that something that you would normally give somebody like a novice or
Yeah, for sure.
the strongman?
Definitely. Some kind of medley is usually pretty easy for people to, grasp onto the correct techniques, and just moving feels good. You want to pick up something and move with it and run with it. And it's a better kind of cardio, in my opinion, than just getting on a machine and kind of staring at a screen or going for a run. I think that you can do just as much damage as, running with sandbags.
Yeah, I would agree.
In less time.
Yeah, that's the kind of cardio I'm more into.
Yeah, I hate running. like just to run. That's not my thing.
Jogging.
Yeah.
I like sprints. Those are sprints with
sprints in the bag and
added challenge to it.
Yeah, and what with the idea of leaning back, is it to kind of make yourself more aerodynamic, I guess, or why is that a thing?
So with anything heavy in front of you, you just don't want to be leaning forward because it can easily pull you forward. So I just use the cue lean back so that you can keep everything packed and make sure that that bag isn't going to pull you to the ground, or the farmers aren't, you can trip over your feet, or the farmers will pull you down if they're, extra heavy. So that cue usually helps people stay more upright and keep their upper back tight, because that's where a lot of your, you're holding that bag.
Makes sense.
Then we tossed some stone boulders on our shoulders.
The balls.
Yes.
And tell us, so what we started at, 65 pounds, I think it was?
Started at 65 pounds, you went to a 95-pound stone, and then 125 and 150.
And you were, tell the audience a little bit about, there's a difference now, and you said even in the competitions of the stones.
Yeah, with the stones and a couple other pieces of equipment, it's becoming more standardized, and they created, Mike Bartos created Stone of Steel, so it's just made out of actual steel, and it's plate loaded instead of having to have, 20 different concrete balls, stones laying around. You can just train with one implement.
But that's also something that you're seeing now more consistent in the competitions as well.
Yeah, depending on the competition and what they have for equipment. But you'll know if you're using a Stone of Steel or an Alice stone.
Right.
And
you'll know prior to the event.
Yeah, different. When you use an Alice stone, you use tacky as well, so it's something that makes the stone stick to you a little bit better. So we just didn't use that today, but
on our hands.
On your hands and arms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you would chalk up too for the farmers carries and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's something I want to touch on a little bit later, the accessories for Strongman. Mm-hmm. But what do you think were some of our struggles with those three things there, with the stone to shoulder, with the farmer's carry and the bag?
I would say mainly just making sure, since we were just doing something very basic and foundational and it wasn't that heavy, making sure that you're using the correct technique and not just muscling it up, because it's easy to just muscle things up and, just scoop up the bag and run with it, but it's not going to always feel good the next day. So you want to make sure you're using correct body mechanics all the time. But I think for the most part, you guys did pretty good. Had to fix your running technique a little bit. But,
yeah, you said I was running on my toes?
Yes.
Yeah. I typically do run on my toes, which I thought was a thing. I thought that was what you're supposed to do. But nah, I think I've been running on my toes wrong my entire life.
It might not be wrong, but I think with 100 pounds in your hands,
yeah. I just think of it from football running on my, because you want to stay on your toes. Yeah. Jumping around. Yeah, but when you have 100 pounds wrapped around your, well, not wrapped around, but I'm wrapped around it essentially with my chest. It makes more sense to not be on my toes. Balance issues, right? And then, yeah, we went from the concrete to the Stone of Steel. Stone of Steel.
That's right.
I think too with that one, it was just it definitely was different from just doing the smaller concrete stones with the grip and then being able to, like you said, squeezing with your chest. Mm-hmm. I found that to be a lot different as we got with the bigger stones. But is that it didn't seem much of a size difference from the 65 to the 95 with the concrete. But as you're getting higher up, is it really, I mean, the stones, the diameter and all that are really just kind of that much of an egregious
change? For the most part, the diameter increases. Unless you're using the Stone of Steel, it'll always stay the same, of course. But with Atlas stones, sometimes wrapping your hands around a 250-pound stone for a woman is a little bit difficult but some people do like that bigger diameter, so they have more surface area to cover with their arms.
And in the competition, is everybody in the same weight class at least using the same weight?
Yes, you're always using the same weight.
You don't gain extra points for doing a heavier ball or
something. Sometimes they'll have a trump thing where you can decide to lift a heavier object and mm-hmm. you'll get more points automatically than someone else who would lift the lighter one for more reps. So that's another kind of event they'll have. But for the most part, if it's one weight, then everybody has to lift that weight.
Interesting.
I found it to be really fun just doing these events in general.
That's what I wanted to say.
Like, it's a lot more motivating to try and chase a goal where I feel like I'm kind of like just challenging myself in a new way. I don't know. Like, I have a hard time saying, oh, I want to chase like a deadlift goal. It's not as exciting. But when I was thinking about, well, I want to see like how much, like what's the heaviest stone I can put on my shoulder.
There's a lot of pieces to it. Yeah, that's why I like it so much, is because there's so much I can teach people. It's really challenging in so many ways. You can try to hit a max deadlift, but you can also try to rep out a 200-pound deadlift in a minute to see how many times you can do that. So there's a lot of different energy systems we train, and there's a lot of little goals we can reach before reaching that comp. So I try not to make the competition the end goal. You don't ever want to have an end goal to just compete and do well. You want to actually enjoy and celebrate the little victories in your training, because that's what's most important, is actually enjoying your journey.
And then when you think about an event like Stone to Shoulder, you could probably see where somebody's failing. And then do you then kind of do maybe traditional, weightlifting exercises to target like weaker muscle groups or wherever like the failing point is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like with anything, in powerlifting, they have accessories they have to do. So I do a ton of accessories, bodybuilding style, just to target those specific muscle groups. And with Strongman, you're using a lot of upper back, hamstring, and glutes. So that's a lot of what my accessories are focused on. Speaking
of accessories, so yeah, what are some of the things that, if somebody wanted to get into Strongman, male or female, what would be some of the additional items that they might need to be able to train correctly and be able to compete?
I wouldn't say that they technically need anything, but as you're getting into a competition prep, something's usually pretty heavy, so you need to have some kind of strap or wrist wrap depending on the event. If it's a deadlift and you can use straps, then you're going to use straps. A lot of people don't want to use the things that they're allowed to use. They'll be like, oh, I don't need straps. But you should definitely if you're allowed to, use it. If you're allowed to wear a belt, wear a belt. So like a soft belt, a hard belt, and wrist straps. And then just depending on the events are the little things that you might need.
To stick them on your arms.
Yeah, you said the tacky.
Yeah. There's stone sleeves. There's all kinds of stuff.
That's a no-no
elbow
in
sleeves,
football.
knee sleeves.
This is my sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually wear like receiver gloves sometimes for
yeah.
the stone steel. Or like holding on to a Husafelt stone, it's easier to grip.
That makes sense.
We have grip shirts for the log and for the stone. So it's like this shirt with all these grippies on it, and it will help you, keep it attached to your body.
At whatever little advantages you can take care of, especially
especially
if they're allowing you to do so.
Yep.
That's cool. I think that's. I mean, also I'm sure some gyms supply it, which makes me kind of question how many Strongman gyms are there in Buffalo.
So right now there's of course I train out of Kenmore, and then there is Iron and Stone, which is more towards Alden area, and that's it. So there's us, and then the next closest one is in Rochester, and that's where I train sometimes as well.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, so you're kind of limited. And did you think that I mean, because how about this? Do you feel like that the participation in the sport from this area is increasing or is stagnated or?
Well, Strongman in general used to be a lot smaller. Even when I started competing a couple of years ago, there wasn't that much female involvement. It just started getting bigger, and then as of the past few years, it's definitely exploded. And there isn't that much in Buffalo, but I would say for the most part, they're doing a really good job of promoting shows in the area, like the one at Riverworks in the summer. And Rochester is having one. That's the one I'm bringing my athletes to in June. So as time goes on, they're getting better about having shows and promoting the sport in the area.
I would assume marketing and visibility are improving partially because of social media. I mean,
Social media is
how are
huge.
people supposed to know that these things exist if they're not exposed to them? So.
Right. Yeah. Social media is where a lot of it comes from. All of the contests are listed on the two sanctioning companies of Strongman, and then there's also some in Syracuse. That's where I originally started competing. Was all the contests were held in Syracuse.
All right. So yeah, the female participation in this type of male dominated sport, something you kind of brought up. Obviously something that's totally different as far as what you would typically see a lot of females who are into fitness doing. You embraced it, and how do you kind of explain to maybe other women who might want to kind of do it but are hesitant because of different reasons, I guess, but how do you kind of bring them around?
I just kind of see, if someone comes to trains with me, I don't automatically assume that they want to compete in strongman or that they want to do any kind of strongman movement. But if they are interested in it, I, slowly introduce them to different events and, just see where their interest lies and see if it would be a good fit for them. But I think a lot of women just really like the community and like the atmosphere of being around other strong people, strong women, and strong men. We'll train with guys and girls, and it's just like a really good community. Everyone can, bounce their enthusiasm off one another and encourage each other, and it's really empowering for women to feel like they belong to something and that they're strong and that they're, reaching towards some kind of goal.
And you did your first competition in 2016, and so it's only been about 3 years or so. How much have you seen of it? There been an increase in the participation from that time to now?
A lot, for sure. When I started, there was some female involvement, but the records for women were a lot lower as far as like state and world records, and now there's a new world record coming out every month for what women are doing, and it's insane. Like, they are doing the same that men are doing with the weights, and it's just really, really cool to see how much it's growing, and it's going to just continue to get bigger and explode.
And do you, once again, my ignorance to it, but do you feel like a lot of the athletes, is it drug tested?
Not drug tested.
It's not drug tested.
No, it's not drug tested. Which a lot of people don't like that. They say, you're competing against people who might be on drugs and they're cheating. Well, that's their choice. That's their choice to be on whatever if you are or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. So I just compete to compete.
And what about I guess, well, that's good. That's a good idea. Just kind of that. But do you personally push anybody towards that, or do you just kind of,
It's their personal choice. So I don't make any comments about if they should be on something illegal or they shouldn't. It's just whatever their, goals are. But I personally like to see how far you can get naturally. I think it's really, really awesome to see what the human body can do under just training and working towards it.
For females, do you think that there is with the enhancements or taking the drugs, steroids, or whatever you want to call it, do you think that has something to do with wanting to be like the men?
Maybe to a certain extent, but there are professional women that I'm sure are on drugs. There's professional women that aren't on drugs. So it's just whatever they choose to do and whatever route they decide is best for them. I have nothing against people who take drugs, but
completely, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something that people talk about a lot. Is, well, aren't you going against people who aren't natural? And yes.
I didn't realize that they wouldn't have.
Yeah, like most like powerlifting has like a drug tested federation and non-drug tested, but yeah, there's only 2 federations in strongman, so they're both on. They're not tested.
Yeah, I guess
adds to the challenge.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was gonna say. Just kind of, you gotta go out there and just then compete with your best, no matter what. For you now, you're also helping women find more confidence with your training, and not just for strongman, but you're also training others. And how do you go about that?
I would say the main thing I focus on is a positive self-image and more positive self-talk, because a lot of women come to me and they say like, well, I'll never be able to do that, or I'll never be a certain weight, or, you know, they apologize a lot. They say I'm sorry all the time for things that they shouldn't say sorry for. So I just try to flip that around and make them realize like how they're talking, because a lot of people don't even realize that they're speaking so negatively about themselves. And once you continue to talk negatively, it's your brain just believes that, and like you just get stuck in this comfortable little bubble that you're in. And yeah, I just try to make sure that women know that they can go to the gym on their own, they can do things that men are doing, and give them a little bit of confidence. See what happens from there.
And I think too that helps build that community aspect too, right?
Absolutely.
Keeping it strong mentally. Do you think that that will keep with the for back to kind of strongman, like, you know, with keeping that culture, that will keep enhancing and keep the growth going?
Absolutely, yeah. Women in particular, I think, are just so supportive of each other in this sport. There are a lot of all-female competitions too, which I've brought some athletes to, so that's also a lot of fun. You know, it's just a whole day of girls competing with and against each other, and it's just really, really encouraging and empowering to be in that environment. You meet a lot of people, and some people you stay in touch with forever, and some people you just see at contests throughout the year, so it's really cool.
And kind of bringing in social media to it. Social media can have its advantages where you're showing the sport off and you're able to kind of bring more recognition to it, but also has those negatives. And how do you kind of navigate that world?
Well, I would say for my social media account in particular, I just kind of use my account as like a journal for my training. So I post stuff about clients, but for the most part, I use it as, you know, just to see my progress over the years. And a lot of people come to me and say things about it. So I didn't actually realize that I was making an impact on people because of my Instagram account, but I now try to just, you know, relay positive information. And if someone shows me something that's negative, you're always going to have that. So, you know, you just kind of have to redirect them and put them in the right direction of like what they should be looking at and paying attention to.
Yeah, that was something that was kind of taught to us, talked about in one of our previous podcasts, was that it doesn't matter how many followers you have, but kind of making that impact. And, you know, those people took the time to click and follow, and how you can not only take advantage of that, but use it as a platform to, like for you, keeping it positive and promoting not only, like you said, the sport, but, you know, that positive attitude, especially for which you're a big proponent of, the positive talk, but for the female and the sport. A couple of your philosophies that you mentioned were, you eat to fuel your body as a machine and not as a reward for working hard. Mm-hmm. And so diet, we know diet is a huge thing, and any of these, you know, functions that we're doing. Tell us a little bit about your diet.
You know, my diet isn't perfect. I definitely enjoy food and all. You know, I enjoy desserts and sweets and everything, but for the most part, I try to eat as an athlete, and I don't, you know, go eat something because I just had a really hard workout. And I try to preach the same thing to my clients. You know, the nutrition is more important than the time you spend in the gym. So if you're eating like garbage and then spending 2 hours in the gym every day, it does not matter, and your workouts are not going to feel as good as if you were actually fueling your body. So I would say the past year I've really, really focused on my nutrition and dialed it in, and it makes such a huge difference in your recovery and how each workout feels day to day.
Do you have a nutritionist or a dietitian or anything like that?
My coach, Andy Triana from the Performance 5, is my nutritionist as well, yeah.
There you go.
All right. Do you have any particular focus on, let's say, like staying in a weight class, or are you just trying to make sure that you have enough fuel to get through all of your workouts? Are you trying to gain, lose? Like, I'm curious. I was very curious about what your nutrition is like.
I used to be it took me a while from bodybuilding to get out of that mental space of being focused on a weight. So even recently, like a year and a half ago, I was like very focused on being a certain weight and staying in the 140 range. But now I kind of just, there's definitely a number that I don't want to get too close to, you know, because I have to make a weight cut. So I try not to make a water cut that's more than 15% of my body weight. So
seems reasonable.
Right now, I just trying to maintain what I have, you know, put on a little bit of muscle, get stronger. But I definitely, there's like a range I need to stay in, or else I don't want to have to move up to another weight class.
Because it'd just be that much more difficult for you, right?
Right. The women's weight classes, at least in Strongman Corp, are 20-pound differences. So it's 140 and under, and then it's 180 and under. So it's a huge weight jump, and I would like to compete in lightweight for as long as I can for now.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I like this idea that you said about using food as fuel.
Mm-hmm.
I try to think about it the same way, and it's a positive thing too, because it's like I'm taking care of myself by feeding myself good things, as opposed to like looking at it like I have to do this because I need to hit a certain weight. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you don't have to work out. You need to replace those words with like, I get to go to the gym,
right.
I get to take care of my body, and
punitive, right?
Yes, you don't have to do anything. No one's forcing you to take care of yourself,
and then you don't have to shame yourself if you
exactly.
If there's cake at a birthday party and you eat it, like
you can have social a little bit of it. Yes.
You mean I can't have the whole cake? That apple pie is calling my name. So yeah, you're eating, and being that type A idea, how hard is it to definitely stray away though? Even though we talk about it, but you do want to make that weight. So when it gets down closer to crunch time, how hard is it to stay away from stuff like that?
Crunch time, it's not that bad just because I'm pretty focused and in the zone as far as, I've been weight cutting for a while now. I've always had to make some kind of weight cut in all of these competitions. And as I've gotten more muscular, it's just been harder. So I kind of just stay focused, and I'm like, it's only for a short time. The food's not going anywhere. I can always go get a piece of cake or a brownie or whatever I'm craving. I can always have it. But if I don't make weight, then I'm in trouble. So I just try to keep my mind focused on that weigh-in day, and then from there, try to keep my weight stable.
Do you have like peaking phases and like the way a powerlifter would?
Yep, it'd be the same kind of idea. Yeah.
So is it challenging to, let's say, maybe be restricting your calories a little bit, but while also trying to peak at the same time, and you're pushing yourself to the limit in a sense, whereas some coaches might say like, your heart rate variability says that you should be toning it down today.
Yeah, but you don't have a choice. So you just get through peak week. It's a little different than powerlifting. We're not working up to the same thing that they are. But it, of course, is challenging if you're doing any kind of weight cut and going into any kind of competition. But we get 24-hour weigh-ins. So as far as like powerlifting, I'm pretty sure a lot of them they weigh in and then they compete. So I get 24 hours to weigh in and then
make weight
myself. Yes. Yeah. So of course it's hard towards the end of a prep, but that just makes me push myself even more, because I know that I'm towards the end and I'm about to be up on that stage competing, and it's a really awesome feeling to be up there. So
you have to take that David Goggins mentality. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So kind of last touch on Strongman and everything, but if you were to tell somebody, a woman especially, who is thinking about it but still not really sure, what would be the kind of the sales pitch into why they should do it?
I don't know that I have a why, but I do have, keep an open mind. And if you have an opportunity to try something new or something you never have, don't be intimidated by the weights or like what you might see someone doing. You might get scared of seeing someone carry this big square thing on their back, the yoke, or lifting stones, but you just really don't know what you're capable of until you try. And you'll surprise yourself real quick of what you can really do and how much you can push yourself.
Yeah, I like that. I think people should throw themselves into new situations
Get
so they can
uncomfortable.
discover what maybe they do like something that they didn't know, and never to doubt really whether you're capable of it. I mean, everybody starts somewhere, and it's not like you're going to have to run in there and throw a 300-pound stone on your shoulder on day one. And then you may find that this isn't for me, and you find something else that is. But
yeah, I hear it from my girls, you know, every session I've been training them for a couple of years now, and even this morning they were like, wow, I remember when I couldn't even lift this stone. I remember when I cried for 3 different training sessions because I couldn't get something, and now they're like throwing it over with ease, you know, and it's really awesome to see that progression, and you just really don't know what the limit is endless. There is no limit to strength. So no matter how strong I get, I'm always going to want to get stronger. And that's the cool part about it is you're never going to be the absolute best because there's always going to be someone that's, you know, chasing you or better at something else.
Genes are real.
Yes, they sure are.
So are
genetics. Yeah.
So our
we're not from
performance enhancing drugs.
Performance enhancing is real, and but yeah, as far as novice goes, and trying something for the first time, just be open to it, and you might not like it, and that's okay. You don't have to like it.
You're competing against you're competing against yourself. You're challenging yourself.
You're not competing against anybody else, but the person that you're looking at. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so outside of Strongman, you're currently doing some. You're trying to get pro status, and how does that work?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that like that's my end goal, but of course I would like a pro card eventually. That's, you know, there's in both sanctions you can get a pro card, and you have to either win nationals or win the Arnold, or get second place at the Arnold. They kind of have lax rules about it, but yeah, you at the Arnold you go on the main stage. If you get in the top 4, you go on the main stage, and then the top 1 or 2 of that gets the pro card. Then you can compete with the professional women.
You did get a pro card in bodybuilding, right?
I did get a pro card in bodybuilding and MMA, yes.
So and MMA. Did you say?
MMA.
MMA. No,
like,
not MMA. No way.
This is something we have to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, never mind.
So yeah, you that's a goal. It's not your end goal necessarily.
Yeah,
it's
definitely a goal. It would, you know, of course, I would like a pro card. In the women's professional class is all there. It's really, really awesome to see that grow every year too. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, good luck to you with that.
Thank you.
And not only with personal training, you're doing some online coaching.
Yes.
So how, are you online just overall training, or is it Strongman as well?
Yeah, overall general health and fitness, and then Strongman training. A lot of my clients are Strongman based, and then I do take clients from the Performance Vibe, my coach's company, and those are just Strongman clients. So,
gotcha.
So yeah, growing that as well as my in-person personal training.
Do you find it harder to do online coaching?
Not necessarily harder. It just depends on how well I know the person, how well I know the athlete, and what they're capable of, and how good the communication is. That's number one, really, is if they communicate well with me, it's really not hard. But if they don't follow the protocol, then it makes it a lot tougher for me to prescribe. Do
you see that as becoming more of the norm now, as more it's shifting towards the online?
I would say so. A lot of people prefer it. It's more cost effective, and as long as they're open to sending videos and doing all the things that they need to do, a lot of good coaches aren't accessible in person. So it's a lot easier to get an online program. And then, I've met up with my coach a bunch of times. I'll go take trips there and stuff. So it's also cool to meet up with them at competitions. And
I would imagine, I don't know where your clients are, but there's got to be lots of small towns across America where there is no Strongman gym. So it's an opportunity for someone really anywhere to participate.
Absolutely. Strongman's really big in like the New England area, so Massachusetts, all of that whole New Hampshire, those areas. So there's a lot of a lot of strongman gyms out there, and then they're just like sprinkled all over throughout the U.S. But the good thing about strongman is it's like easy to make the equipment, and it's easy to substitute things for the equipment. So, you can make a sandbag real quick. It doesn't take much.
That's true.
If you're living in a rural town in West Virginia, you can still
take a couple slabs of concrete.
Yeah, that's right.
Get the advice that they need.
And yeah, tell us a little bit about the Performance Vibe. How did you get hooked up with them and kind of rolling?
I just had seen Andy at a bunch of competitions, and we connected really well. And then I was looking for a new coach, and he was taking on online clients, and I just went for it. Just because I got really good vibes from him, with him actually coaching me in person. He was very helpful at meets, and he wasn't even my coach. And then from there, we've just developed a really, really good friendship and coach-athlete relationship. And he's just taught me so much about the sport, and is kind of guiding me in a good coaching direction as a coach and an athlete. He's really, really done a lot.
How many people are a part of the Performance Vibe?
I don't know the exact number. Like I don't have an idea of how many clients he has. I have there's a couple different coaches. So I think there's 4 coaches, and then he's the main coach with another strongman, Nick Hadge. The Hadge brothers are pretty big into. If you might have seen them on the main stage of the Arnold. But yeah, there's a pretty good amount of athletes that are on the Performance Vibe. So it's a nice little tight-knit community as well.
Awesome. All right, so you're now also studying for massage therapy. Mm-hmm. And what got you kind of into that?
I just wanted another avenue, to explore, to learn more about the body, and I just really wasn't ever sure what it was. I never really looked into massage because I was like, well, you're just going to break your body down eventually. You can't massage for long term. But the more I did my research, the more I found out about it, the more I was like, well, I'm just going to go for it and try it out. And I think it's going to be a really good thing to add to my practice and to, really complement what I already do with clients. So that way I can understand injuries better and understand how to help them. Specifically want to go into sports massage.
Yeah, I mean, you're dedicating a lot of your life to this whole training, and then also with the massage. Is there enough time in the day for all that, or what?
We're going to find out. We're doing
challenge accepted
so far. Yes, absolutely.
All right. And how would you kind of incorporate that into like the training? Like, what would you, because you would see kind of how they're maybe getting injured or something like that, and then that's when you're like, all right, well, I can tweak, make.
Or hopefully before they get injured,
Gotcha.
Understand how that works a little bit better, and then if they have some kind of little injury, hopefully I can fix that a little faster than them having to go somewhere else or wait to get an appointment somewhere. It'll just make me a better coach and trainer overall. And also with the girls I teach dance to, they have not very good body mechanics and they get injured a lot. So I think that will be good for me to help with the little dancers. Which
kind of brings up one of your other philosophies: build off of a solid foundation, move better, feel better, train harder. What do you consider a solid foundation? Is that something that you'd want somebody to have prior, or is that something that you helped kind of cultivate?
I definitely either or. I mean, I would love if someone came to me with a really good foundation and they just want to jump right into some solid strongman training. But a lot of people need a lot of leg work beforehand. So and that might take up to 6 months to a year of just focusing on the basics. And a lot of people don't want to do that, but you need to have patience and just work through that process, because you'll much easily get injured or do something wrong, and it's just a lot easier to teach these movements to people who understand how to move. And that's something that you're learning from the massage therapy aspect too, just kind of with learning the body. I'll just learn the details of the body more so, along with my exercise science background, but as far as like movement quality, I've just learned over the years of shadowing different coaches and doing my own research. Oh, and then you still enjoyed teaching dance. Love it so much.
something you've done over, a long time, but you're teaching 9 to 17.
Yep, there's a couple of different classes that I teach. We're right in the midst of our competition season right now, but yeah, I absolutely love it. Dance is my first love, so.
I find that interesting how you have it's almost like two different worlds. That's how I would look at it.
It is.
You got grace and then brute.
Yes.
That's probably good though, healthy balance.
Yeah,
Yin and yang.
What type of class? Oh god. What type of dance classes do you teach?
I teach some lyrical, contemporary, and jazz classes.
Okay. Those are some of the more basic classes that beginners kind of jump into.
Yeah, I would say like jazz and tap and ballet are like the normal dance classes, and then you can go into your specifics.
The contemporary where...
Yes, modern, contemporary, lyrical. Yeah.
Nice.
Those are my favorites.
Do you have a one that you prefer out of all those?
I would say modern and contemporary is what I really enjoyed in college and, carried over into, I really like choreographing for and performing.
Nice. If you want to give a shout out to the studio that you
Mod
teach
Dance.
in.
Dance, yeah.
Yeah, Mod Dance. They're in Kenmore as well, right?
Yep.
Keeping it all within
That's right.
distance.
At least
right?
I can.
Helps alleviate drive time.
Yep.
That's cool. All right, so let's kind of wrap this up. Let's get to the shotgun questions, if you're ready.
Sure.
Okay. Favorite cheat meal?
Favorite cheat meal? A burger and sweet potato fries all the way.
Where's your burger place?
I don't have a specific place. I like, the Griffin is good, but I'm really open to anything. I like trying new places. I feel like there's a new restaurant in Buffalo every day. So.
That's probably true. I think we kind of touched on this, but favorite, maybe we'll kind of tailor it this way, favorite strongman movement or exercise?
Atlas downloading.
Yeah, makes sense. If you could change one thing about your fitness career, what would it be?
I would say to fast forward to get
to pro?
Well, no, not to pro, but I don't know, that's a hard one.
Everyone's answer seems to be something like that.
No, a lot of people are more like the past. They wish they'd gotten into it earlier.
Right.
She's saying she wanted to go fast forward.
No, I think I got into it at a really good time
Yeah.
In my life, and dance helped me understand how to learn all these different movements and about the body. But I would like to fast forward a little bit, get through school, have all of this all set and set in stone. And
you're still young.
Yeah, still young. Got time for sure.
Right, so that seems to be a common theme, like I said, but it's like that journey is what got you where you are.
Gotta enjoy the journey. Yep, gotta enjoy the next few years of it. Yep.
All right, fair enough. What is next? I mean, we kind of talked about what's next for you, not only with Strongman, but, for personally.
I'm really just focusing on an off season right now, so I'm not competing for the rest of the year. I'm just focusing on school, growing my business, and, seeing where that goes. And then next year I'll compete, hopefully at the same Worlds competitions, and then do a qualifier for the Arnold again, and go from there.
Best of luck with you there.
Thank you.
And last question, any pro tips that you want to impart to the audience?
Pro tips.
Practical tips that you've picked up on over the years that can help people.
I would just say that strength has a different meaning for everybody. So being strong doesn't mean that you have a lot of muscle or you are able to pick up, 1,000 pounds off the floor. Being strong could be you just getting to the gym, or you being able to pick up your kid with no pain from the ground for the first time. There's so many different avenues of it, and just find what works for you, find what makes you feel good, and live in that light.
Awesome. Well,
strength can also be vulnerability. That's what someone's trying to teach me, at least.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's strength is definitely, there's so many different types of strength. I mean, it's not just
physical, but mental is usually the hardest part for people too.
Yeah, I want to dig into some more of the mental on future episodes.
Definitely. Well, thank you again, Katie. It's definitely been a pleasure, and thank you for the I guess, just kind of a little bit of a taste in the Strongman, I enjoyed it probably more than I should, because now I'm gonna kind of get it, not addicted to it, but just kind of exactly. Now I got a little itch that I might have to scratch, and so yeah, I appreciate it though. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for letting us experience that.
Yes, we hope we didn't make too much of a fool of ourselves. But.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening to the HeroFit podcast with Nick and Dan. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to learn more about this episode or listen to past podcasts, please check out HeroFitPodcast.com. Our audience is strong, so we can't ask you to smash the subscribe button. Please just gently tap the subscribe button. Leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe to us anywhere, Spotify, Google, whatever you prefer. And if you think someone that would benefit from this podcast, please share it with a friend. Join us till next time, and until then, keep it classy.
This has been another episode of the HeroFit Podcast, making humans great again, one podcast at a time.